welcome back to Small Engines Galore, where in this video, or this series at least, we're going to be trying to get this MTD white mower running and driving like new. This thing, it's pretty rusty. It's not in the best of shape, that's for sure. And underneath the hood is a very dusty 13 horsepower engine. But the good news is, I get this Craftsman. It's mine, if I get this one running. So that's great. The only problem I have with this Craftsman, aside from the seat, is that, well, just the problem that it has. Open up the hood, there's no engine cover for a reason. There's a hole in the block. Thankfully, this MTD does not have a hole in the block. Okay guys, today we are going to be actually testing some stuff on this MTD. Let's get it to the garage and start testing. Okay guys, here's the MTD white, pushed right up to the garage. Yes, Beast 2 is right in there, looking nice. And we're gonna work on this one right outside here. Because, why not? It's a nice day out. Okay, so the very first thing I'm gonna do is gonna go ahead and open the hood, just so I can double check everything, like oil and other fluids. That's got oil. Okay, that's not good fuel. That is bad fuel for sure. Okay folks, I went ahead and took the hood off so that it would be easy to work on it. There were 1 3/8 bolt here, and one that went into this bracket on each side, and a 1/2 inch head bolt that went into here. The ones with the 3/8 head were a 5/16 diameter coarse thread, and these ones were a 3/8 coarse thread. I want to show you just how rusty the bottom side of this hood is. I mean, I guess it's like the rest more, but like holes everywhere. Like I could basically stick my finger through there. That sucks. I mean, not for me, but for the owner of this, it kind of sucks. Guys, I went ahead and cleaned off the tag that says 13 horsepower and the actual engine tag, so we can figure out what it needs for parts. I'm going to go ahead and remove this air filter, and I'll show you how all this comes apart off the carburetor. I'm in the middle of draining all the old fuel out too into a jerry can. This one's always been used for old fuel, so it's good. So you're gonna take your screw out. Normally there's a a nut there. It's usually a 4-prong. But yeah, your air filter comes off, and there should be a bolt right there that's a 5/16 head. And I'll show you on the back side how to slide this whole air box out once this fuel's done draining. We're gonna remove this. First off is you're not gonna have your fuel line looking like this. If it looks like this, then it definitely needs to get replaced. But to remove this air box, you're gonna want to take, there's a screw out right there, and one that goes right there through this bracket, as well as one that goes to the oil pan underneath here somewhere with this bracket. All 3 of those are 8mm head, and there are 2 nuts that go on these studs, one here and one behind the carburetor. Maybe I'll get you to see it. Right there. Hopefully you saw that. And then we can just pull this thing back towards the rear of the mower, and it should just pop out. There we go. Okay, so now we can get at this carburetor. That's really gross underneath. To remove this carburetor, you are going to need to take a 5/16 wrench and unscrew both of those studs. They will unscrew from the intake manifold. If they pop out as one whole thing, they don't stay in the intake manifold, that's normal. That's how they're supposed to come out, so don't freak out. You didn't wreck the threads. Once you have this loosened, you can just grab it with your hand and twist. It should come out. Right? You can see it's already spinning out. There you go. Okay, so now what we're going to end up doing is just undoing the carburetor linkage and taking this carburetor all the way off of the mower so that we can take it apart and clean it. Because, let's be honest here, what I saw in the fuel tank, if that's in the carburetor, then we have some major problems. So how you're going to tell which linkage your carburetor has, so there's one with a spring on it, a small spring. You can see it in my finger. That one goes to the furthest back one, which would be the throttle plate. The choke plate is hooked up underneath here. You can see that lever I'm pointing to, it pushes that. So when I'm sticking the choke on, you can see the carburetor move there. That was the choke linkage moving. And yeah, you're just gonna unhook the linkage. So the linkage stays hooked up to the engine the rest of the way. That all stays. Just the carburetor comes off. Okay, so I have this carburetor on a piece of paper towel. First thing I'm going to do is just remove this line that they are attempting to use for fuel line. Or maybe not. Sorry, bumped your camera. That's a really nice fuel line. Chuck that out. Okay, so the next thing you're going to want to do is get a 1/2-inch wrench, and it fits right in there and unscrews the fuel shutoff solenoid. I'll show you. Oh yeah, one thing I forgot to mention was some 1/2-inch wrenches don't fit in here. They're just a touch too wide. This one in particular fits, and it's just the skinnier one. You take a wider one like this one. I know you can't really see it's much wider, but it is just a touch wider, and it won't fit. Like, not at all. So if you just have wider wrenches like that, you can just hammer one of them in, or take this on a bench grinder and grind the end of this flat or skinnier so it'll fit. That's your carburetor wrench then though. This one was super tight, so I just went ahead and stuck it in the vise and twisted it. And now it's loose. Let's see what happens when we open that. Okay, so here's your fuel shutoff solenoid. I'll go pick up that wrench right now. Okay, this carburetor has already leaked a bunch of gas and stuff out of here. Let's open up this float bowl and see what we find. Ah, sweet. I mean, it looks like coffee grounds. And a piece of wood? How did this get in there? By the way, guys, that was not a setup. Like, that's just, you saw that fuel line, right? I'll go dig that piece out, but that's what was all inside the tank. Don't know if you guys can see all the black on the bottom of the tank, but yeah, it's the same stuff as what's in that carburetor. That's gross. So the first thing we're gonna do with this thing is go give it a blowout with the blowgun, I think. And yeah, that already got most of the mud and whatnot out. This float bowl though, it's fairly clean actually for having that much gunk in it. That's why this thing wasn't running though, I think. I mean, if you guys think it would still run on that, please let me know in the comments. But it's just not gonna run on that. Like, it's just not. Great clean. Ah, that's cold! Alright guys, here's that float bowl. Hard to believe it's the same one, hey? You can tell because of all the dents on the bottom. But it turned out pretty nice. A lot better than it was when we started. This, on the other hand, it's gotta get sprayed out. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that off camera and I'll show you what it's like after I'm done spraying. Okay, I just did a quick wipe down of this thing on the outside. It's not perfect, but it's a little bit better than it was. And now I'm just trying to take this float out. I already have the pin out that holds it in the center. You can see that right there. And yeah, does not come out. The float is actually stuck on the needle. The needle is stuck in the seat. So now I have to try to figure that out. I have a couple of spare floats, so you may just see a clip of me busting that off. Okay, whatever. Okay, have the float out of the needle, undamaged. The needle is still in the carburetor though. Alright guys, I ran into a problem. I accidentally busted the top of the needle off. Now I gotta drill it out, I think. This may just lead to that this is a parts carburetor and I'm gonna have to fix one of my other carburetors. Okay guys, I went ahead and drilled out the needle. Hopefully I didn't wreck the seat. Let's just pull this thing back apart and we'll find out. Okay guys, I got what's left of the needle out, mostly. Here's this portion that I actually drilled out. The end of it is still stuck in here though. That means I think I'm just gonna have to order another carburetor or something. So obviously that's it for today. Thanks for watching today's video and I'll get back to you in part 2.